Okay, 10 minutes HTML intro. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna navigate to codepen.io. This is gonna give us a fancy text editor or IDE or a coding playground that we can work on. Second thing, if you need a tool to share your code, you can use pastebit.com. And remember that we are failing our way to success by trying stuff and just seeing what happens. This is the best way to learn. My goal with this whole presentation is to get you to understand what's possible, and then once you know what's possible, you're going to try and build it, and you're going to fail your way to success. By learning what doesn't work and how the things relate, you're going to have actual experience, and you're going to actually learn how to build stuff. There's no way I can teach you how to build things just by telling you what to do. You're going to have to try. So let's open up codepen.io/pen, and let's start by discussing the concept of a tag. Concept of a tag is very important. When I refer to a tag, I refer to something, some sort of text that is contained inside of an opening square bracket and a closing square bracket. And tags come in pairs. So you're going to have an opening tag, and then you're going to have a closing tag. The closing tag has a / that follows the opening angle bracket. And a real-life example of this will be using a paragraph in which you're going to have the opening square bracket, the P for paragraph, then the closing square bracket, then the content of the paragraph, and then you're going to have an opening square bracket, the / the P again for paragraph, and the closing square bracket. So this example is basically the holy grail of all examples. So let's do it in the IDE. P, the content of the paragraph. And as you can see, the second I code it, I get it on the... We're just going to cut this part. Don't worry. It's all good. It's all good. Cut this part out. And so if I were to create a second paragraph, it's just gonna be on a second line. And this is because this paragraph is how would you call it? I guess you would call it block element. Is a block element, or it's a block element instead of an inline element, which we're gonna see later. Some tags are self-closing. An example will be the image tag. A self-closing tag doesn't have a corresponding closing tag. It only has a opening tag, and it self-closes. So the example would be the image, which are going to have opening angle bracket, EMG for image. Then I'm going to specify a source, and this is the URL the image comes from. So I'm just going to, I guess I'm going to Google for an image about Google, and I'm going to right-click, copy image address, and I'm just going to put in a random URL. Doesn't matter. And then I'm going to close. Okay, and the important part is, just to highlight, image source equals curly braces to identify the content of source, and then we're going to close the image tag. And this is an image tag that has no image, but that's fine. So next up is the shortest list of tags in the world. We have the paragraph, the headings, the span, the div, and the button. And if you understand these, you're ready to go. You can build your website. You literally can build your website. So let's go over them in a real life example. So I'm gonna Command A and delete to delete everything. And then I'm gonna put in a H1. This is the header. And I'm gonna close it. Then I'm gonna do the same thing with the H2. This is the secondary header. And then I'm gonna put a P, paragraph. This is a paragraph. And as you can see, they're all in the same line. Whoops, this is a mistake. There was a P. Okay, so this is the simplest example. You now can literally build any web page with simple text. Now to enable, if you were to put an image we discussed, you just do image source equals the content, the URL of the image, goes here, and then it's a self-closing tag, and then we're going to have a span, which is a very interesting one. So we'll do an example here of span. This is an inline element, and then I'm going to close it, and then I'm going to create another one on the second line. This is another span, and as you can see, it's going to be on the same line. Why is it on the same line? Because this is an inline element, and an inline element doesn't go on the same line. Basically, span is the inline element for the classic, the one example, along with image. Image is another inline element. This image with wrong source is inline. And as you can see, it doesn't go on another line. It goes on the same line. But if I were to put a paragraph, it will go, this goes on a new line. Because a block element, such as paragraph, div, p, div, h1, or h2, these elements are block elements. So they occupy a whole line, and they force everything to go on a separate line from them. While the inline elements keep everything on the same line. And this is a great, very important thing when it goes to building layouts. You're gonna encounter this when you start building layouts. So there are also div with names, which means tags that have a specific name, but they basically behave like a div. So I guess this is the next example we're gonna discuss, which is the div. The div is basically how the whole HTML has been built. It's a way, or at least tons of websites, it's a way to separate content into blocks. And div is just a container that is a block element. So that means that even if I put text without any specific tag here, and then I put another div, the second div is gonna be on a new line. The second content is gonna be on a new line. While if I were to do the same thing with a span, which will be the inline equivalent of the div, the content is not gonna flow. So this is on a line, and it's forced on a new line because of the above div, but this is on the same line. On the same line. Okay? It's on the same line because this is an inline element. And the best examples for div and spans, in my opinion, are the Airbnb widget, which is something that I think is very nice. So we're just going to copy it very rapidly, just to give you a glimpse of the power of HTML in general. As I can see here, this app is actually built in React, which is something that I teach on another course. So if you're interested in that, why don't you join us? So with that said, let's just copy this image, and we're just going to create this on a very basic level, okay? So we're just going to create a div, which is basically the whole container, okay? Then we're going to put an image source, and I just copied the source. So now we're going to have the same image here. And then let's say this is the h3, this is the h1, and this is the rest of the content. So this is going to be an h3. And obviously it's not going to look the same, but I think you get the gist of it. h3 visita guida, which means guided tour, by the way, for the non-Italians here, everyone. And this is going to be an h2 just because, so it's bigger. Tokyo guided, I guess Tokyo Temple. Let's call it Tokyo Temple. Sounds cool. Guided visit. Okay. And lastly, we have these inline elements. So this being inline means that they are contained possibly in a div because it goes on a new line. But this text, they are not paragraphs. These are spans because they are on the same line as this star rating. So we're just gonna do a div that is gonna contain all these inline elements. And by the way, we don't really need the div. I'm just using it because I think it's helpful to separate things, and it probably is the way they built it because they think in components. I'm just making a guess. I didn't look at the source code right now. So we're gonna have a first span, which is the stars. 4.95 because we're badasses. And then the second span, oops, apologize, sorry about that. The next span is going to be the number of reviews, 54. And then the third span is going to be the disponibile in Coreano. So it's simply available in Korean, Chinese, English. and then I'm gonna close the span. So now, if I look at the way it's set up, we have an image on one line, and that's thanks to the div that contains it. Actually, no, it's because the h3 goes on a new line. Then we have the h3, then we have the h2, the bigger title, and then we have the meta description here. And we did it in a few seconds thanks to the power of HTML. If we were to style this, we will need CSS, which I don't cover right now. It's actually an enormous topic, and but hopefully you can start building stuff. It doesn't matter if it's looking good or looking bad for now, because what matters is that you learn the functionality. In my experience in the job market, there's way more people that are able to style things than there's the people that are able to build things. So building things is the most important skill. Let's go ahead. I'm gonna copy this so I can send it to you guys later on pastebin.com. It's a great tool. I suggest this one. Or you can use GitHub. If you have a GitHub account, you can just type GitHub Gist. If you're a student, you get 2 years of Pro for free. So 100% use GitHub. I love it. It's amazing. And you just paste it in. Use syntax highlight as HTML. And so you just save 626. And there you go. Now you have a shareable HTML. I can just save this URL up here. I'm gonna save it in my notes, my secret notes. Which I assume is the 1st of September, by the way. All right. So next up, let's build a form. The form is the most important thing you'll ever learn how to build, because thanks to form and basically buttons, which is a tag I haven't introduced, but I'll introduce right now, you are able to ask people for stuff, which is how you build login forms, how you build search, how you build everything that the user interacts with. Most of the time is either a button or a form, or something that looks like a button or something that acts like a form. So basically knowing forms and knowing buttons is the key knowledge in HTML. So we're gonna have a form, and form is basically an inline element that contains stuff. Then we're gonna have an input. An input can be of various types. One example is type text. Another example is number. Another example is email. And why do you do this? Basically, it helps with the autocomplete feature from most browsers. So it doesn't really matter for us as users, but it helps a lot with the autocomplete. As you can see, it's helping me, and I just doxed my email, so feel free to spam me, I guess. Don't spam me, please. Whatever. And then we're going to have a button of type equals submit to submit the form. Submit. And form handling is a fairly complicated topic. We do cover it in our 2-hour introduction to building your prototype with React and Strapi.io, which is my upcoming course that teaches you how to build your prototype in just 7 days. I'm very proud of it. So if you want to learn more, you can join me by clicking the link in the description. With that said, if you want to further your knowledge of HTML, there's tons of courses. You can also use the W3C Schools. W3 Schools is fairly okay. MDN, HTML may be a little more complicated, but it's okay. There's a bunch of great resources out there. I wouldn't personally teach you HTML because I think it's so boring. And on the other side, you don't need to know this stuff to build apps. You can just use the component library, pay somebody else to do the HTML, which is one of the most known skills. It's like everybody knows that, and you can focus on the hard parts of building the behavior or building the way the whole machine works, which I think is more cool. It's way more cool for me, at least. And at the same time, it's how you actually build your startup. So if you want to learn how to build your actual prototype, why don't you join me with the link in the description. You're going to get a very nice free video and probably a nice downloadable cheat sheet just for you if you click on the link below. And I'll see you on the other side. Thank you.